What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I do want to go over the Adrenaline Rush Hothead Time Attack. This one is going to be mainly off-road, which is also why I'm showing the Buggy here. Before the Adrenaline Rush Time Attack, though, it is going to be around 41% in the asphalt and then 59% in the gravel, so you're going to have a mix of both. And funny thing is, the Buggy is actually fairly decent in both of them. Now, the thing about this, though, is you're probably looking at this going, dude, that is not the Hothead. I will show footage of the actual Hothead in the background. To get into the main top 5%, though, guys, you're looking at around 2 minutes and 23 seconds. Then to get in the top 15%, you're looking at around 2 minutes and 27 seconds. I would say the first time I looked at it, I was like, I don't think that's going to be too terrible. Turns out, though, after a couple of runs, which, by the way, the run I had on it wasn't all that great, to be honest. I could definitely go back in. When the Hothead does come out again, I'm going to see if I can actually beat my own score in it, because I know I definitely could with some practice. But overall, though, the Buggy, guys, is by far going to be the #1 off-roading vehicle in the game. I'm also going to do a video on this thing soon, so do stay tuned for it, with a couple of tricks and things I did find out to make you even faster. Also, it looks pretty dope. I'm also thinking about doing a video on the Urus because I have not seen that thing anywhere. But I did want to show a couple of things here, guys, of the exact build I'm running on it to show exactly how I did this. Also, once again, similar to the Audi, I am not running any actual builds on this thing, and I'm running it basically stock in a custom driving mode. I'm actually running balance, impact resistance, safe driving, and balance, and also I always run off-road tires on it. Yeah, you could probably use something like the standard. I have heard it's not really a difference, but I have been running the off-road tires on basically most of the events and have been completely fine in them. Now, one thing you will probably notice, though, is the driving mode one I am currently running is going to basically be identical to all roads, so you could basically use either one of these and you should be good to go, guys. Again, I haven't touched the actual settings on the Buggy because, well, I do like the way this thing does handle. Call me insane because I probably am. But when customizing this, though, I do want to show you guys the exact build. But before I do that, one last thing I do want to point out. Similar to the other events, though, this thing is still going to get de-leveled a bit when you actually start. So level 500 to level 600, you probably notice that my Buggy at the moment is going to be around 634 or 654, depending on the suspension you have on it. So do keep in mind it is going to lower that thing either way when you actually do the event. I also do not have the Buggy maxed out, so you could actually take the approach of, okay, so you know what, let me make this thing like maybe under 600. But again, guys, I would actually recommend putting some parts on the vehicle and just let the actual level come down, or let it actually configure it for you, because I found that to be the best way. Now, currently for me on the Buggy, though, I'm running the Epic Super Sport. I have not bought a lot of race parts for it. Why? I don't really see the point, but I might do it anyway. Who knows? We're also then going to see the next one here, ignition valves and camshaft. Again, guys, I do not have race on that one, do not have race on the pistons and flywheel, and I do not have race on the exhaust. And I'm still getting incredibly high times with the Buggy, man. Like, this thing is insane. For the turbo, of course, I'm going to be running anti-lag. If you don't have it, definitely run powerful. It's going to be the next best option. Besides that, we're also going to have the brakes. Of course, that's going to be on race. Would recommend that. Super Sport's also great. Basically not really raising up the braking that much. And then on suspension, guys, this is something I have to talk about for a second. At first, I was running Super Sport on the Buggy, which would probably not make sense. And you know what? It doesn't. Like, yes, you might look and go, yo, that just brought my vehicle up 40 points. Well, yes, but it doesn't help you in the events. I was actually testing out a few different races with the Super Sport suspension. I don't like the way this thing turns at all, so I was like, you know what? Let me try the off-road. The off-road is decent, but I still feel like being a little bit lower is the best way to do it. It's actually going to be very similar to the stock suspension, but I still found the all-road to be even better. Like, yes, it is going to raise your level up, but to be honest, guys, on the Buggy, that doesn't honestly matter. When it does come to the gearbox, though, I'm going to be running the short again. Like, yeah, you could run the versatile gearbox in the long one, but have to be honest, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. The biggest thing with the Buggy is you want that overall acceleration. This thing still does 170 miles an hour, man. Like, it's quick. So I really don't think having a long gearbox for 1 more mile per hour is really going to do anything. For this, I do have race on the transmission. After that, guys, we have the chassis. For this, I also have the main race one on it because it does help it a lot. So I was like, you know what, let's add that to it. Aerodynamics, I'm running Super Sport. Like, yeah, I could probably put this one on. Is going to make the vehicle a little bit better. But again, guys, I just don't see a point of adding the race ones on it. It doesn't really improve the vehicle that much. There's also going to be a lot of controversy that you don't have to have off-road tires. I have always ran the off-road tires on the Buggy and do really good in the events, so I would recommend trying that out. The final thing, the ECU is also going to be on Super Sport and not going to be on Race, guys, so you don't have to have the maxed out parts for the Buggy to actually be good. Now, a few things I did want to talk about with this thing in this event, though. We all do know right now the time attacks are going to be a great way to get money, guys. I do love doing the hotheads. Really hope to see them being a little bit more rotational, coming out a bit more often, because being able to get 85 to 100 grand like that is so dope. And I would say it's going to also help players get better with that said tracker, practice in that said vehicle to go after these said times. So I think it's actually going to be a dope game mode. For me, though, using the Buggy, guys, there's a few things I definitely noticed. Number one on the Buggy, though, again, having a super high level on it doesn't matter. I also, guys, do want to mention one thing here. If they do end up nerfing the Buggy in the future, which I could see that happening, I will make an updated hothead video on these time trials and stuff because we know the Buggy is great. I will end up trying out other cars like the Urus and stuff to see if you can do it with those if the Buggy does end up getting nerfed, so stay tuned for that if that does end up happening. But when you are doing this race, though, the biggest thing I would recommend, similar to the other hothead I did, which is going to be in the Audi TTRS, is I would actually recommend being in manual. Like, yes, you don't have to, but being in manual, guys, with some of these vehicles is going to make them so much faster. You'll be able to find yourself flying out of these corners with way more speed. You can also find yourself going into that corner with more speed because, you're not going to be in third gear instead of second. That way, when you come out of that corner, you're not going to be a bit slower. Then you have to drop a gear. Then you're going to have to shift up again, having like the delay there. You could end up losing the valuable seconds you might need in that race to get in the top 5% or even the top 15% for the most money you can go after. The other thing, guys, I did notice, now I am going to break this down in a new video coming up here soon on the Buggy. That's going to be the e-brake. That is easily going to be the best thing on this car, guys, and I feel like a lot of the vehicles are actually pretty good with it. But the Buggy itself, though, if you can actually get good with that e-brake, my goodness, the way this thing corners is absolutely insane. I've actually been doing very well on some of the time trials and stuff. I've actually set records on them, which I do know is probably not going to last forever, but running a base setting on this car and being able to do that was pretty dope. And a lot of it is going to be like an e-brake test and stuff like that to go around those corners. And I feel like in this time attack, it's still going to be incredible. The big thing about this one, though, is again, you're also going to be on the asphalt. Is the Buggy going to be the best thing on the asphalt? Well, that is probably going to be a big no. Like, yes, it does corner, but do not expect this thing to turn like an actual race car because it doesn't. It's basically going to lock up. It's only going to grip so much. So do not be afraid to slow down a bit, guys. That way you can make it around that corner and eventually get to the end of the finish line. One of the biggest reasons why I also want to recommend to use the e-brake on this thing is going to come down to one simple factor. The turning radius on this thing is going to be incredibly slow, so using something like an e-brake is going to allow you to get around that corner way quicker than just trying to turn around it, which again, I will touch on that in a video here soon on the Buggy. But if any of you guys have any questions at all, let me know in the comments below. I wish everyone the best of luck going after the top 5 and the top 15%. I do feel like with a lot of practice driving this thing and also doing these events, you will then easily be able to get into those percentages, going after the most money you can possibly get. I also do want to mention one last time, if this does end up changing, guys, or like the Buggy does end up getting nerfed, I will definitely do an updated video on the hotheads if some of the best cars do end up getting slightly nerfed in the future. And also a big tip here with the Buggy, guys, be a little careful trying to hit rocks and going over bumps. This thing flips over incredibly easy. Did notice that a few hard times in trying to do the event, but again, try to avoid cutting certain areas if you don't know what's there. Sometimes there could be a rock under a bush, and well, we all know what would end up happening. Now, the last thing I did want to quickly mention here with the hotheads, though, is sometimes you guys might notice the top 5 or the top 15% and so on, like the actual score, like the time to get in there, might end up fluctuating by sometimes around 1 second, 0.50 seconds, but I did notice they still remain to be around the exact same thing as the previous times I have seen them.